In the heart of the bustling city, a royal guard, known for his unwavering dedication to duty, found himself at the mercy of a wealthy aristocrat's mockery. The rich man's taunts echoed through the crowded square, causing bystanders to exchange puzzled glances. This cringy display had been going on for about 10 minutes by now, and people were not sure how to handle it. A young man had been mocking and bullying one of the royal guards at the palace, and a ground of his friends were filming every second of it. And if somebody were to say anything about it, they would be scolded by the ground. But before we start, smash the like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our upcoming stories. The young man mocking the royal guard was Lyle Schutz, a rich kid who had been trying to make a name for himself online by any means possible. He did not care who he hurt in the process. He clearly felt like he was untouchable because of his daddy's fortune. He was clearly used to getting what he wanted when he wanted it. Because Lyle was starting to get really frustrated that he could not get this royal guard to react to him. He wanted the stoic man to become mad or even furious at him, as he figured that could become a great viral video. He was making jokes about the man, insulting his family, throwing food at him, and even spitting at him, but he still got no reaction. He had one last thing he wanted to try, and Lyle was ready to snatch the black hat of the royal guard. But before he got the chance to, other security guards approached the ground and demanded that they leave at once. Lyle first tried to proclaim that he had the right to be here as this was public terrain. But this land was in fact owned by the British government, which the guards represented. Theft could arrest the rich kid right now if they wanted to, and this finally made Lyle back off, as the young man was anything but done. He still wanted nothing more than to get his viral video, and he knew that through was another time to get it. These guards were supposed to stand out here day and night. He wanted to return with 2 of his friends and a camera around 2 or 3 at night to make sure he could continue to try and get a reaction out of the guard without anybody interfering. As they walked away, Lyle felt the judgmental looks of people burning a hole in his back as he walked away, and he was loving every minute of it. They all hated his guts, but nobody dared to do anything. Lyle was feeling invincible, but he would soon find out that he was anything but. So as planned, they went back to the hotel and went to bed early. The alarm woke them up at 1 in the night, and they quickly started to prepare to make their perfect viral video. Lyle had no doubt that he was going to be successful. He left most of his entourage at the hotel, as he did not want to draw too much unwanted attention. When he and 2 of his friends arrived at the center square, it was looking even more perfect than he could have imagined. The place was well lit, making it easy to get good footage of him and the guard, and there was not a single tourist. Just 3 guards each stationed in front of one of the buildings. He could pick and choose his next victim. There was one guard who was clearly a lot smaller than the other 2. Lyle was also not the tallest himself, but even he outsized this man. Maybe he could intimidate him a little more, and so the choice was made. With 2 cameras rolling and focused on Lyle, he approached the small guard and started to mock and irritate him. It quickly became clear that this was going to be much easier than with the guard he targeted earlier that day. It did not take long before the guard started to ask Lyle to stop bothering him. The man had trouble even keeping his posture. Lyle had this man right where he wanted. He knew that it was only a matter of time before this weak soul would break to his torment. He was about to give the guard a push when he was suddenly interrupted by the sound of searching tires. He turned around and saw a black van cross on the square at high speeds. Before Lyle could comprehend what was going on exactly, the vehicle came to a screeching halt right in front of him and his friends. The doors swung open and 5 men jumped out of it. They were dressed in all black and protecting their faces with masks. They were swiftly thrown into the back of the van, and all Lyle could scream before the doors closed was, "Do you know who I am? You can't do this." But he was screaming this to basically nobody, as the man clearly did not care. And the royal guard did not move a muscle in this whole ordeal. You could actually see a smile come to his face. The van's motion felt like a sickening roller coaster to Lyle, exacerbating his fear. The hum of the city faded, replaced by the bumps and turns of unpaved roads. His friend's panicked breathing was audible, reminding him they were in this terrifying ordeal together. Desperation filled him as he recognized the gravity of his decisions that led to this very moment. The vehicle finally halted, jolting its occupants. The back doors opened, letting in a rush of cold air. Even through the blindfold, he could tell they were inside a large space. Echoes of their footsteps and the distant murmuring of voices created an eerie ambience. The scent of dampness and old metal permeated the air, suggesting the confines of a warehouse. Lyle's heart raced as he heard the muffled voices of his friends. They were calling out to each other, trying to establish contact through the heavy barriers of their blindfolds and gags. But as seconds turned into minutes, their voices grew distant. Lyle felt a sinking feeling as he realized he was being intentionally isolated from them. The realization that he could no longer count on their presence for comfort intensified his fear. Once Lyle's friends' voices disappeared entirely, a deafening silence surrounded him. With each passing second, the weight of his situation pressed down on him, making breathing laborious. He strained his ears, hoping to catch any hint of what was happening around him. But all he heard was the occasional distant creak or murmur, shrouded in ambiguity. Alone in his uncertainty, Lyle's mind ran rampant with worst-case scenarios. The stillness was suddenly broken by a soft, rhythmic thud footsteps. They grew louder and more distinct, signaling the approach of someone or perhaps multiple individuals. The footsteps came to a halt right in front of Lyle. He braced himself, anticipating a violent blow or further humiliation. Instead, the gag was removed, and a chilling voice whispered, "Let's talk." The voice was calm but cold, devoid of any emotion or familiarity. Lyle could barely make out the silhouette of the figure standing before him, the dim light casting unsettling shadows that obscured any identifying features. "You believe the world revolves around you, don't you, Lyle?" The figure began, his tone dripping with disapproval. The direct confrontation caught Lyle off guard. Without his usual audience, he felt vulnerable and exposed. Lyle mustered the courage to respond. "Who are you? What do you want from me?" "You'll understand in time," he replied enigmatically. "For now, reflect on your actions." Lyle's mind raced, trying to piece together the puzzle, but every attempt was met with more confusion. As Lyle continued to probe, the figure leaned in, a hint of mockery in his voice. "Think, Lyle. Those who believe themselves untouchable eventually feel the touch of fate." The words echoed Lyle's own behavior, mirroring the torment he inflicted upon the guard. Lyle was left grappling with the weight of his actions and the veiled implications of the figure's words. Lyle, seeking answers, pressed on anxiously, asking about his and his friend's fate. The figure responded in a cold, menacing tone, hinting that actions have consequences, some seen, some hidden. The subtle threat made Lyle shiver, realizing the full weight of his predicament. Once the figure left, Lyle was plunged into darkness. The dimly lit warehouse seemed to close in, the vast emptiness amplifying his own feelings of isolation. Alone with his thoughts, Lyle confronted the magnitude of his misdeeds and the unpredictable consequences they might bring. In the oppressive darkness, Lyle's thoughts churned relentlessly. With each passing moment, the gravity of his past behavior became more evident. The carefree pranks and jests, always at the expense of others, began to loom large in his mind, and with that clarity, remorse began to seep into his consciousness. His chest tightened as the weight of guilt settled in. Memories of laughter and jeers, which once felt triumphant, now felt like shackles. The realization that he had hurt others, not just in jest but deeply and personally, began to consume him. The jovial crowd and the social media applause all seemed so hollow now. One by one, faces appeared in his mind, victims of his mockery and pranks. Their expressions, previously dismissed, were now sharp reminders of the pain he'd caused. Each face bore the scars of his carelessness, and their silent accusations echoed louder than any spoken word. The hours stretched endlessly, punctuated only by the occasional distant noise. Every creak and whisper of the wind seemed to taunt him, magnifying his solitude. His attempts at sleep were futile, with guilt and self-doubt playing a relentless loop in his mind. The cold floor beneath him felt like the only real thing, grounding him amidst a whirlwind of regret. As dawn approached, a flicker of hope began to ignite within Lyle. If he could somehow turn this ordeal into a turning point, perhaps he could find redemption. He yearned to make amends, to prove that he could change and grow from this experience. The road ahead was uncertain, but Lyle's newfound resolve gave him the strength to face whatever awaited him. The morning light revealed a cold, metallic room. A screen flickered to life, showcasing the silhouette of the lead kidnapper. "Lyle," the voice boomed, "you've lived off the pain of others for too long. Now, it's time to pay. Apologize on video for the world to see, or face consequences you cannot even fathom." The weight of the demands sunk in, and Lyle felt the enormity of the situation press down upon him. Thoughts raced in Lyle's mind, with fear and confusion at the forefront. What would the world think? The weight of the decision pressed heavily on him, each option fraught with its own kind of peril. Suddenly, muffled cries echoed through the walls. It was unmistakable, the voices of his friends, their tones filled with anguish and fear. "Lyle, do it, please," one voice screamed. In the midst of the chaos, a realization dawned upon Lyle. His life, filled with bravado and mockery, had led him here. Now, perhaps humility and genuine remorse could be his salvation. Swallowing his pride, Lyle nodded slowly. "I'll do it," he murmured, voice trembling. The screen flickered again, showing a camera setup. This would be the most challenging performance of his life, not because he had to act, but because he had to be raw, genuine, and vulnerable for the world to see. It was time to face his actions and hope that his sincerity would be enough. The blinding brightness of the spotlight made Lyle squint, its harsh glare emphasizing the starkness of his surroundings. The cold metal chair under him felt uninviting. The red light on the camera blinked on, indicating it was recording. Lyle hesitated for a moment, swallowed hard, and began to speak. Lyle, deeply emotional, acknowledged his past actions with regret, admitting he had once found joy in others' pain. As he recalled each incident, the weight of his past mistakes overwhelmed him. Lyle expressed understanding if forgiveness wasn't possible, but emphasized his genuine remorse and hope that, with time, his actions would prove he had changed and was truly sorry. The light on the camera blinked off. Lyle slumped in his chair, drained of every ounce of energy. He felt a strange mix of fear, hope, and relief. Still feeling the weight of the video's emotional toll, Lyle was startled when the door swung open. Bright sunlight streamed in, temporarily blinding him. Adjusting his eyes, he found himself and his friends being herded out into a vast, unfamiliar wilderness. "Find your way back," a distant voice called out. The door slammed shut, and the vehicle roared away. The vastness of the terrain ahead was overwhelming. Gently rolling hills, dense forests. Lyle realized they were miles away from civilization, with only the wilderness as their guide. Lyle and his friends, having gained a second chance, vowed to use their journey through the wilderness as a catalyst for personal growth and to advocate for empathy, kindness, and understanding. Soon after, Lyle's emotional apology video went viral, sparking both praise and skepticism. Despite the backlash, Lyle remained committed to proving his remorse through transparency, interviews, and addressing online bullying. He transformed his platform from pranks to anti-bullying advocacy, sharing emotional stories and apologizing to those he had wronged. Over time, Lyle's reputation shifted from a notorious prankster to a respected advocate. He organized Net Kindness Fest to promote a safer online world and began speaking at schools and corporations. During a seminar, Lyle had an encounter with a royal guard who had been involved in his kidnapping, revealing the guard's own emotional scars from Lyle's past pranks. This exchange deepened Lyle's understanding of the pain he caused. Later, Lyle discovered that the guard's brother had been one of his captors, and it was not revenge but a desperate attempt to awaken Lyle to his wrongs. Reflecting on this, Lyle felt gratitude for the experience, realizing it had led him toward genuine self-reflection and a commitment to make amends and inspire positive change. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss another unbelievable tale like this one.